A good therapist will meet the client where they are, not the way that he or she wants them to be. You see, every individual is unique and beautiful in their own way, even if they come with certain complaints to you. So, what I want you to understand as a therapist, as a coach, is instead of trying to change them, what we need to do is go where they are. This is how I have seen therapy since I started in 2011. I see clients as people who are stuck in a mud, and the mud is so deep that they cannot get out of it on their own. So, a therapist's job is not to stand on the outside and invite the client to come and follow them. But my job as a therapist, as a coach, is to come in, take you by the hand, and get out. Now, this means several things. A therapist will always reserve judgments. Not that he will hold judgments, but he will not even have judgments to begin with. So, if a client comes to me with a certain complaint, certain issue, as a therapist, I have resolved so much of myself that I welcome other person's existence within myself. So that's number one. A good therapist will always reserve judgments, means he will not even have judgments about the way the client is. And number two, I want you to, as a therapist, write down the language of the client. A lot of the times we know, we know that words are just anchors into an experience. That is what I teach in NLP, for example. So each word has a different meaning to different people. Our job as a therapist is not to change the client's word and language, although sometimes we do that just to change the cognitive biases. But in the beginning, especially, what we do as a therapist, as effective coaches, is we use the same language that the client is using. So, for example, for a client, love means a different thing. For me, love means a different thing. So, happiness, for example, if the client comes to me and says, I am sad, instead of me making assumptions what sad means, which would be my judgments again, I'm going to ask the client what sad means to you, what qualities quantify sadness to you. Now that we know the language, now let's go to the next step where you want to go. From sad to what? Now, in my mind, I would think maybe from sad he wants to be happy. But again, this is my judgments, my assumptions. The client might say something else. For example, from sad, I just want to be at peace. And that's what's important. So a good therapist meets the client where they are. And it takes a lot of courage for a therapist to abandon themselves as a person, venture into the dark forest, take the client by the hand, meet them where they are, and then bring them out of this darkness with them. That's why a therapist who has had their own psychological challenges and personal problems, they, if trained properly, will become the best therapist. People who don't have any problems, they haven't gone into that depth of despair. They haven't ventured into the forest. They don't know what it feels like to be stuck into the well of darkness, and they haven't found a way out themselves, so they don't know the way out. So I just wanted to pop in here and tell you this very important message, that a therapist, an effective coach, meets the client where the client is. So it has nothing to do with the therapist or the coach. Good luck with your practices. If you need more advice, please comment me and I will answer your questions.